Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Tuesday to everybody. Welcome back to episode 9 now. We've already done, this is the 9th one of these we've done of Behind the Camera with Pete. And I got a very special guest today, and we will bring him in just a second. But like always, I need to let everybody know this show and every show done right here in the Pigskin Pete Man Cave, aka the Pigskin Pete YouTube studios, is sponsored by betnow.eu. If you want to wager on football, if you want to help a good cause, St. Jude's Children's Hospital, make sure you visit the link in the description of this video. You have to use the link. This is the key here. If you just go to the website, but you don't use the link, then the money, portions of the deposit will not go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So make sure you use the link. And once you deposit your money, whether it's $20, $50, $100, whatever, make sure you use the coupon code PETE, P-E-E-T-E, and they will give you a 50% bonus on your deposit. And I will be doing some of these betting videos, starting week 0 in a couple weeks here, and we'll have some fun with that live on the air, and of course, and most importantly, support a good cause. The hashtag for this is always Sam Strong, and that leads me to my next sponsor, the guy who sponsored all these call-in shows, literally bankrolls it, is my man Catfish from the Volunteer Roadshow. So big thank you to him. Big thank you to betnow.eu. Now let's get right into it, because this is all while we're all here. I love to give the backstory of how I know these guys and my affiliation with these guys. Listen, if you guys have been watching me for a while, some of you are new to the channel, so you might not know this, but this guy, John from Always Irish, he was on the Pigskin Pete show. I had him on, I want to say it was 5 or 6 months ago. I believe it was right after the college football season ended last year, and we talked in depth about Notre Dame football. I let him know, my well-known stances on some of the things that happened with Notre Dame as far as not being affiliated with the conference and all that sort of thing. But we had a great time, and we've kept in touch ever since. And he's a guy, he uploads he does a podcast. He uploads a podcast and also, puts it on YouTube, I believe weekly. And this is something that I never miss. Now, again, I'm not a Notre Dame fan, but if this guy can hold my attention for more than 5 minutes, because I have the attention span of a gnat, then that is saying something. And when it comes to Notre Dame football, Notre Dame fandom, he is definitely my go-to guy, and I trust everything he has to say. And his show is very entertaining, even to a non-Notre Dame fan. So without further ado, let's bring on my man, John from Always Irish. How you doing, sir?
Fantastic. It's nice to be with you again. And the last time we talked, it was before the playoff matchup. That did not go very well for Notre Dame, but congratulations to you and your boys. You deserved it. You shredded it up in the playoff, and I wanted to get that out of the way. Congratulations. You guys earned it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, now I could just mention, so a quick plug here for you, because I know you have the YouTube channel, and that's really how I get your podcast, but it's not just YouTube. I think you just upload your podcast to YouTube. Is that right? So where else can they find you outside of YouTube?
Yeah, so that's how it started, with me just recording and then transferring it into technically a video file and putting it on YouTube. But then we've expanded now. People wanted it on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. So now we've expanded to all those outlets. And so really it's now whatever's most convenient for people. They can listen however they want. But I still stay true to the YouTube, because that's how it started. And there are certain people that love that. So I'm not going to get away from that. Okay,
great. So, but they can find you, like you said, on Spotify and on iTunes and all that.
Yep. You just type in Always Irish. It'll pop right up.
All right, great. So that leads me to my next question. Obviously, the most important thing here is that I've said this before on all of my other Behind the Camera series. I believe that people that do these podcasts and people that like me and you that do these YouTube videos, there's definitely something slightly wrong with us to take the punishment that we take for this. So what was it that possessed you? First of all, how long have you been doing this? Where did this all start? And, what was the motivation behind starting this podcast and this YouTube channel to begin with?
Sure. So I got on Twitter, and I was kind of late to that. I got on Twitter in 2014, and it started turning into pretty much all Notre Dame content. And then you find other people that are looking for that, and you kind of end up with a growing circle of people that are all into the same thing. And so that started to grow, and I had a pretty solid Twitter following base of primarily Notre Dame lunatics like myself. So that was growing from 2014, 15. And then what really happened is Notre Dame bottomed out in 2016. In October of 2016, we were in the midst of a 4-8 miserable season with a roster that had enough talent to win 9 or 10 games. And they ended up going 4-8. And I was losing my mind. I was beyond frustrated. The 140 characters Twitter offered at that time was not enough for me to get out all that I needed to. And it just wasn't enough. It was too much to say, not enough space to do it. And I was getting really frustrated. And a lot of these podcasts, especially there's a lot of Notre Dame podcasts, and a lot of these people have access to Brian Kelly and the program. Therefore, they can't always go as hard as they want because they don't want to tick off the head coach and lose their access, for the next interview or whatever. And so I started getting really frustrated. I felt like there wasn't accountability. There was a lot of excuses being made. Some of the fan base seemed to just kind of accept where we were. And I had a real problem with that. And one day I just said, you know what? The hell with it. I'm just going to do my own thing, just however I can, and record it and put it out there. If for nothing else, I own therapy to just talk it out. And so that's how it started. I needed an outlet for me to vent my frustrations. And I realized if I can I'm not a computer guy, I'm not a technical guy. The logistics of how to get it going was really the biggest hurdle. I knew content wasn't going to be the problem.
Yeah.
Because I could just talk, So that's kind of how it started. And I figured all these Notre Dame fans that like me on Twitter and like what I say, if I do a little show, they'll probably listen and I can move it in through Twitter. And so that's kind of how it got rolling. And shortly after it started, I kind of just came up with the name and started branding, the YouTube channel, and then changed my Twitter name to that for consistency. And so that's kind of how it started. But that 4-8 campaign in 2016, I couldn't handle. It pushed me over the edge. And so that's what started me just kind of ranting. And that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, Notre Dame is a big-time national brand for a lot of reasons. And look, I noticed that you have a lot of interaction on Twitter, and a lot of people that obviously are fans of what you do on both YouTube and on the podcast and everything. And it's a double-edged sword for people like me. I don't have a lot of I don't consider it competition, but there's not a whole lot of Clemson YouTube guys out there. There's a handful, and they're all really good, most of them. But I don't have a lot to compete with as far as competing with somebody else in the Clemson thing. You have probably, like you just said, there's a ton of Notre Dame YouTubers and podcasters out there. So you're sort of a fish lost in a big ocean there. But I will say this. Because it's such a national brand, when I was a kid, I was born in 1980, so I'm an 80s baby. But some of the fondest memories I have as a little kid was, my dad was a big-time college football fan. He watched college football every single Saturday after we golfed. But Notre Dame was on every week. So we were Clemson fans. We watched every Clemson game, but we also watched every single Notre Dame game. And both my parents are Irish. I grew up Irish Catholic. And so they were fans of Notre Dame and Clemson. So that's, I'm just a guy down here in the middle of nowhere in South Carolina. And, I had heavy exposure to Notre Dame football throughout my entire life. So there's not a single state in the union that does not have a lot of Notre Dame fans in it. As a matter of fact, I can testify to that as when I went to the Notre Dame Clemson game in 2015. That was the most visiting fans I've ever seen at a Clemson game. It was probably, if it wasn't 50-50, it was damn close to 50-50. It might have been 60-40, Clemson Notre Dame. But there was a ton of them there. And I know you know this because we've had this conversation. My plan is to come to South Bend next year for the Clemson Notre Dame game in South Bend. And, obviously, if I do come, I'd love to meet up with you and go out and have a beer or something, maybe even play a round of golf or something. We'll have to figure that out. I'm trying to convince Mrs. Peete, that we can spend a few $1,000s on this trip. But I think she wants to do it because she also wants to go to Chicago. So what do you think about that?
If you do that, let me know, and we'll set something up because you're going to Notre Dame for the first time. You could sit in a parking lot and drink beer, and just like any other football scenario. But you are open enough, even as a Clemson guy. You love football and the history of college football enough that I think you would actually really appreciate if I brought you around and showed you some of the different things that you're only going to see at Notre Dame, and show you. I just think that's something you would respect and appreciate. I'd love to do that and love to play golf. So if you end up in that Chicago area, we'll figure something out.
Yeah. First of all, the first part of that statement, as far as appreciating, to go around and see, the campus and the facilities and all that. I mean, look, man, that would be so awesome to me. I mean, again, it's going to South Bend to a football game, whether they were playing Clemson or somebody else, is on my bucket list. If you're a fan of college football and you don't want to go to South Bend to see a football game, then there's something wrong with you. So yes, I would absolutely, definitely appreciate that and love every minute of it. The second part of that, how far is Chicago from South Bend? A drive?
It's about 2 hours.
Right.
Traffic on Saturday mornings on 80 is sometimes questionable, but it's about 2 hours, I would say, each way.
Yeah, because that's what I'm trying to plan to do. The game's obviously most likely going to be on a Saturday or Saturday afternoon or Saturday night, I would imagine. And so I was thinking, me and my wife, fly into Chicago Tuesday or Wednesday and spend 2 or 3 days, around Chicago, and then just rent a car and drive down to South Bend for game.
Yeah,
day.
that's going to be. That's going to be a night game no matter what. So that's going to be an NBC Notre Dame home night game.
All right.
Which means it's going to drag on forever because the NBC has the rights and the games drag on forever. So that's going to be a late night getting back to Chicago. The issue is finding hotels and stuff around South Bend. That's a rural area. I mean, there's nothing around there but Notre Dame, really. And so all those hotels are going to be booked way in advance. They're going to charge 4 times the normal rate. They don't just let you stay on Saturday. They make it a 2-night minimum. And so a lot of people do what you're saying and stay in Chicago, hit everything they have to offer, and then just drive. That might be your best plan.
Yeah, the problem is I'm not going to be in a condition to drive 2 hours back to Chicago after the game.
Well, you're going to have to figure that part out.
All right, but anyway, yeah. But anyway, that's the plan: is to go to Chicago and then make our way down to South Bend for game day. We'll see. Are you planning on going to the game, or you don't know yet?
I don't know yet for sure, but something like that, I'm going to end up there. I'll just tell you right now, one way or another, I'm going to end up there. I'm telling myself I don't want to go watch Lawrence shred us again, but I'll end up there. Me, I'll be there.
I have a feeling, even if you don't go in the game, you probably end up on campus watching it somewhere on campus or something.
Yeah, I'm going to be there, so you can book it.
All right. All right, so, so the history of your fandom, obviously you just said you lived in Chicago, but I mean, what is the history of the fandom in your family?
This is one of those deals where I just grew up in an Irish Catholic family, 12 years of Catholic education, that whole thing. We're Kennedys, we're Irish Catholic. And so from the time that my earliest memories are just of the family gathering at my grandparents' house, the entire family, and we watched Notre Dame, and that Notre Dame was it for us. Living in Illinois, I never knew what the University of Illinois was. It didn't register to me. Like, Notre Dame was it for us. And so that's just my earliest memories. It was all about Notre Dame that weekend. And God forbid they lost. Everybody was miserable. Nobody talked to each other. And the weekend was ruined. And so that's just how we grew up. Notre Dame football was everything. And the entire social schedule and everything was built around when Notre Dame played. And that's something that I grew up with. And the older I got, you know what really happened, I think? when I got out of high school and college and was no longer an athlete playing my own games, that's when my fandom with Notre Dame really ratcheted up. I mean, yeah, I was, play golf, competitive golf all the time, but it wasn't like playing on a baseball team and traveling and having your own stuff going on. And so once that happened, my fandom really kind of ratcheted up and intensified. And it's just something that's always stuck with me and the entire family. I mean, we don't do fall weddings in the Saturday. Like, I'm just unavailable. So
yeah.
That's just always been the family's deal, and it's never going to change, and I never want it to change, even though I'm miserable because of it most of the time.
Yeah, I understand that. We have a lot more in common than I thought. B being Irish Catholic. I know when you sent me this, this koozie and the bumper sticker and the nice note that you sent me, you saw what my real name was, and it doesn't get much more Irish than that, does it?
Yeah, exactly. I did. I did see that. And I appreciated you rocking that koozie, by the way, on the lake. That was like a fun time.
Yeah. And also, when I was growing up, I was a competitive golfer from the time I was, 5 years old all the way through high school. So, and I honestly don't get to play as much as I used to. But
well, yeah. you gotta bring your sticks when you come, and there's a million nice courses in the suburbs right out of the city there. We'll figure it out, but I can find somewhere nice for us to play. I'd love to drink some beers and do that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That sounds amazing. All right, so back to the YouTube and the podcast thing, because I'm always interested in this. I tried the podcast thing. I tried to do this like weekly podcast, that was completely separate from the YouTube channel, which I really think the way you're doing it is the way to do it, where it's the same thing, but you just upload it multiple places, honestly. But so what do you see? I mean, has the podcast become bigger than the YouTube channel, or do you notice a difference there, or how does that work?
Yeah, what I've noticed is the iTunes side of it is growing a lot.
Yes.
And so I don't know if that's just because, one reason is just logistics. Like, when it was just on YouTube, you have to keep YouTube open on your phone. Like, if you're doing yard work and have your earbuds in or whatever, listening.
Yeah.
And that drains your battery.
Yeah.
But if you're on iTunes, you can close that screen out and listen to it, and it conserves your battery. I think a lot of people were asking me, John, when are you going to do that? And it took me a while to get things figured out. And so the iTunes, you could search your statistics and your analytics on iTunes if you have a podcast, and it's growing weekly, which is really encouraging. So a lot of people are liking that medium, and it's new people I'm catching too that are typing into iTunes, searching for Notre Dame football podcast, and then they find me, give it a try, like that I'm a little different in how I present. Mm-hmm. And so it's nice to snag some of those people.
Yeah. So what you're telling me is, and I agree, that's a YouTube problem. I don't understand why they can't, as complex as YouTube is and all the stuff that you can do on there, why you cannot keep the app open without, shutting the video off. I'll never figure that out. They're the only ones that do that. I mean, you're right. Whenever I'm out, when I'm out like mowing the grass or whatever, and I'm trying to listen to a YouTube video, and I got to keep it open, so I put the phone in my pocket, and I have a Bluetooth headset on like the one I'm wearing now, mowing the grass. But if I take a step too big or something, and it changes the video inside my pocket, and I get so pissed off, like I almost throw my iPhone across the lawn for that. But
exactly.
So,
and so it was a big priority to branch out, and I wanted to be as accessible as possible. And I'm still going to do the YouTube just because it's how I started, and a lot of people are loyal to it. But that's iTunes is so easy to do, and it's easy to search. It's easy to find. So seeing that grow is really encouraging, and I'm glad I'm catching new people too.
Yeah, and what I'm going to do now, definitely after we talk today, I'm going to go ahead and find you on iTunes and subscribe to you on there. Because if I take a walk or do some kind of exercise, I can't listen to YouTube for the reasons we just talked about. But you have a long form format, which is perfect for a podcast, where you talk for an hour straight, sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours, right? And that's a really good format. I love long form podcasts like Joe Rogan. They'll talk for 2 and 3 hours straight. And like what you do, you talk for an hour straight. Most people, unless they're a real diehard fan of yours, are not going to watch a YouTube video for an hour. They're just not. So the podcast thing is definitely, it's the way to go. And I think I'm definitely going to get into doing more of that in the future. I'm still have a lot of other stuff going on that I will be announcing soon that going on with the YouTube channel. But that's a conversation.
Yeah. And the really nice thing is with the analytics that iTunes provides you as a podcaster, you can look at your retention. So I can see if a show's 100, an hour and 20 minutes, it gives you the percentage of that show that's being listened to. So if it's 15 minutes, you might have a problem, or you might need to change something, or people aren't sticking around. And so the numbers are like in the 90s, which is pretty darn good if people are willing to listen to me talk for an hour and 15 minutes. So the people I do have tend to be really loyal, and I have my routine post on a Tuesday morning. They know it's reliable. Every Tuesday they're going to get it, and they usually find time through the week to just listen to it all the way through, which is incredible, because that encourages me that I know people are there for the long haul. They've bought into the show as a whole, and they want to listen to the whole thing. And that's some reaffirmation that you're doing something people enjoy and they're willing to put that much time into.
And so you see a lot more traffic at this point on your podcast, on the iTunes or whatever, as compared to the YouTube channel, or is it about the same?
It's iTunes is catching up because, YouTube had a few years of a head start, iTunes is slowly I just started that in May. So it's behind those numbers just because it hasn't had a few years. But the searchability of it is key. That any Joe Blow can just type in iTunes, I'm looking for a Notre Dame football podcast.
Yeah.
And then they're going to find me, where if they're not on Twitter or follow me there, they don't know about me. If they're not on YouTube looking for it, they don't know. But that searchability and moving up those rankings based on how many people review you and listen, then you move up, and then you're on the front page on iTunes when people search Notre Dame football, that's really helped.
Right. All right, so sticking with the same theme here, we just talked about the past and we just talked about the present. Now let's talk a little bit about the history. Now, you just mentioned, so obviously, the podcast, the iTunes part of it is more of a newer venture, and the YouTube channel is, where you started. But is there anything outside of that in the future? An expansion of the show in any manner, maybe a website, maybe a different type of format, maybe a different medium? I don't know. Is there anything, or are you just trying to focus on right now, getting the podcast, up and running, or do you have any illusions of, branching out at some time in the next year or two?
I definitely do. It's hard, and I don't know if you've gone through this as well as you started to grow and gain more confidence in what you're doing on your show. It's sometimes it's hard to not get ahead of yourself. And so I'm looking down the road at something more expansive, something on a better platform, maybe something that is a video option as well, like you have, as well as just digital audio podcasting. And so in looking at like advertisers and things like that, people are starting to kind of contact me with interest about that. And so now my focus is kind of trying to grow this brand the way it is now, get it out there, get the numbers up so that more opportunities show up on the door. The better your numbers are, you know how that goes. And so I'm kind of focusing on that because I don't feel that my numbers warrant that yet. And so I'm trying to perfect what I'm doing and grow this brand and then kind of see what doors open. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. I've had other people ask me to join podcasts with them, like combine mine with another guy doing Notre Dame stuff. And I feel like I got something good going here, and I like the way I'm doing it. I like that I own it, all me. I do whatever I want.
Right. And
I'm going to just keep rolling with that for now.
Yes. And by the way, I think that's a great strategy because, it's very tempting, like you just said, you get a lot of different people in your ear wanting to do this, wanting to do that. And that's great. I do a lot of collaborations, and I'm doing one right now. But, you get a lot of people saying a lot of things and offering a lot of things. And the key to this is not, like you said, not getting ahead of yourself because, you'd rather do one or two things and be really good at it than do 5 things that are mediocre. Because then everybody goes away. And so I think that you have a really good strategy there. And I think that there's a lot to be said for building these podcasts and these YouTube channels slowly, because those are the people that are going to stick around. If you have 10,000 subscribers and your videos only get 100 views, what does that tell you? So, I mean, it's all about, do people really want to watch your channel, or do they just hit subscribe because you told them to on the video, right? I mean, that's all that matters is who's sticking around for the long haul. So I like that idea. All right, now.
Right, and you know what? That's like
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like I sent you that koozie and the bumper sticker and all that stuff. I ended up doing that stuff for a lot of my loyal people that have been there from beginning. And I'm like, give me your address and I'll send you guys this stuff for free. Because those are the people who made this kind of start and grow. And I wanted to thank those people for sticking around, and whatever doors open down the road, it wouldn't be possible without those early loyal listeners and the people that encourage you, even when, you know how it is. There's always haters who say, you don't know what you're talking about, or you're this or that. And so that's like one of the reasons I'm like, hey, give me your address. I'll send you an Always Irish koozie. Like, I wanted to thank those early loyal people because they've been there. They're the ones telling their Notre Dame friends and family, you got to check this guy out. It's no BS. And so it's that loyalty. You can't grow without it, and you need it. And so I wanted to find a way to thank those people. And that's why I just said, yeah, it'll cost me a little change, but I just want to thank all those people.
Yeah, and the reaction that I saw from that on Twitter, because, everyone got their package, and then they took pictures of it and tweeted it out. The reaction was unbelievable. I mean, you had people that had your stuff up in their Notre Dame man caves, and people really seemed to appreciate it. Hell, I appreciated it. This room I'm sitting in. Obviously nobody can really see beyond what's behind me here on the wall is the big Clemson helmet on the wall, but I have tons of Clemson memorabilia throughout this entire room, and you gave me an idea because out of all the Clemson stuff I have in this room, there's an Always Irish bumper sticker sitting right here on my mini fridge behind me. And it looks out of place with all the orange, but it gave me an idea that I think I might, steal from you is I might actually give a chance for, if people want to send me stuff, from their team. I don't care if it's the Florida Gators or Notre Dame or Alabama or Georgia or Southern Cal or whatever. If they want to send me a bumper sticker or a tchotchke or a picture or something, I'd be willing to decorate this entire Clemson room with just all kinds of college football stuff, because I really do appreciate all of college football, not just Clemson, even though I'm a Clemson guy. I mean, my wife might have a hard time with a bunch of other teams being represented in this room, but it's called a man cave for a reason. I make the rules here, so she's gonna have to she's gonna have to deal with it. But I think it was cool that all those people you sent that stuff to, really liked it so much, and they were making it centerpieces in their man caves and all that sort of thing. I thought that was a really cool thing to do.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody, I was blown away by some of those Notre Dame man caves and all the cool stuff people had. I'm like, I don't think my Always Irish bumper sticker belongs next to that Newt Rockney photo, but I appreciated it, but I appreciated it, and you know what else, like that helped grow your brand when people start seeing people drinking beer and having a good time with your koozie. Like, it's all a part of the bigger picture here, and so that's what I'm always looking for, is that long run and just baby steps, like you said, trying to be good at what's working now.
Exactly. All right, so on to the next question here. I don't want any personal business here. We had this conversation before the podcast, but just overall, what is your family, whether it's your parents or siblings or whatever, what has your family reaction been to the podcast? And, are they supportive of it? Do they think it's cool, or do they even know about it?
It's really pretty funny because I got, my immediate family, I got one dad and my brother, and they love it. They're used to it because this is just how I talk. Like, when I do a show, that's not me putting on an act, being a character to do a show to be the crazy Notre Dame guy and yell and get ratings. That's just how I am. so any family and friends that I have, they love it because that's just how I talk all the time. And then they just kind of roll their eyes when they listen to it on a recording, because that's how it is at the dinner table or in the living room or wherever else. And so that's the way it is. The one funny one is probably, God bless her, but my mother, who listens to the show, and she'll call and go, I really love that, but did you have to curse there? Or did you have to make fun of that guy? So she's the only one, God bless her. She listens every week, but she'll call and go, here's what I like, but can you tone down the language on this, this part, and so with family and friends, it's not an act. So they're not shocked by any of it, because it's just, that's how I am when it comes to Notre Dame. So to them, it's just kind of normal. I think it's to the other people where they're like, whoa, this guy's kind of out there. But to a lot of them, they like that because that's how they are. And they're looking for an outlet that offers that. I think what separates me is I've never claimed to be the show to go to for X's and O's breakdowns of every scheme and every playbook type thing and this coverage and that. That's never been my expertise. I think what I've found is how to hit the nerve of the emotions you feel as a Notre Dame fan. And that's kind of the focus of my show. Underlying it is the emotions, the collective emotion of a diehard Notre Dame fan. And I think that's the angle that kind of separates me from a lot of the shows that are just more X's and O's breakdowns, just kind of talking about it factually. I think offering this hit a certain group of people that it really appeals to, and those are the ones that are gravitating to this show.
Look, you represent the vast majority of Notre Dame fans. And I'm not saying that you're a representative of theirs, but what I'm saying is that you have more in common with the vast majority of Notre Dame fans, the same way that I have more in common with the vast majority of Clemson fans, because there's always that one fan, and you may have experienced this, there's always that one or two fan that's going to come and comment on one of your videos or one of your podcasts and say, well, how could you don't deserve to have an opinion on this? Did you play football at Clemson? Did you ever play football at a high level? What do you know? Well, look, if you emptied out the stadium of every person on every Saturday in every college football stadium in America that didn't either play football for that school or play college football at a high level, then there'd be 3 people in the stadium, and there would be no college football. So the vast majority of the people that care about the sport or that are huge fans don't fall into that category. They fall into the category of people like you and people like me and people who have an opinion, and it may be critical of the team. And that's just the way things go, man. If anybody out there that pretends is if everything that goes on with their program is sunshine and rainbows and unicorns, that's not a fan. That's just not a fan. It's somebody that's living in a delusional world, and they're I don't know what you call them. I call them morons, but I don't know. Maybe that's
yeah. Well, they're lemmings, and that's one of the big problems I have. There is a big chunk of the Notre Dame fan base that's kind of okay with whatever. The Saturday games are just there for cigar smoking and shaking hands with their old buddy. Win or loss, they don't care. Like there is a chunk of that in every fan base that's just kind of there for the experience, and there is that. But the nice thing with the Notre Dame, there's so many podcasts and so many things out there. People can listen to whatever they want. If you want sunshine and rainbows, and for somebody to tell you we should go down to Georgia in September and kill them because why not? Because I like Notre Dame, so I'm going to say they're going to win. People can find that if they want it. I am not for everybody. My show is not for everybody. There's people who listen to it who think I'm just an annoying loudmouth. I don't want to be for everybody. I want to be for the people who can appreciate the notice that I love Notre Dame more than anything, and everything I say, good or bad, is coming from a place of how to get us in a better place. And so I don't need to be for everybody. And I encourage people to listen to a bunch of different shows. Find the one that offers what you need, and then do that, or listen to 2 of them in a week. Pick one that's X's and O's and then one like this or whatever. But, there's always people that are going to say, who are you to say anything? And it's like, well, I'm just the guy doing the research and putting the time into it. If you don't like it, see you later. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. And look, you have validation. The validation for you is, well, I'm going to rephrase this because I don't want to give it away. I want to let you give it away here. I'm going to rephrase it in the way of a question instead of a statement. Give me one or multiple examples of an experience that you hold near and dear to your heart. Whether actually it could be a great experience or it could be a terrible experience, but I think I know it's great. I know at least one great one, and I'll let you tell it, that you would not have had you not had the Always Irish YouTube channel or podcast.
Sure. So I got two examples from this summer. And when I first started this, some people would ask, John, you're putting a lot of time and effort into this every week religiously, and you're not getting paid for it? Like, are you crazy? What are you? And I'm like, I love it. It's my hobby. It's the most fun hour of my week, unless I'm playing good golf. It's the most fun hour of my week, and I don't mind doing it. What I kept telling people was, I got a feeling that if I stick with this, enough people will like it that maybe something cool could come of this, or some doors could open that I'm not even thinking of now. So that's kind of the mindset when I started it. And it took me a while, but I got into this summer, and I got a message on Twitter from a guy who's a loyal follower, listens to the show every week, whatever. And he said, hey, here's my number. Give me a call. I want to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, I don't know this guy, but I'll give him a call. And it turns out he's on the Notre Dame football grounds crew.
Very cool.
And he told me and my entire staff and my coworkers, we love your show. You don't sugarcoat it. You're exactly what the program needs, and you're spot on, and we love it. And they said, we listen every week when we're working on the field. And he said, why don't you let me know when you want to come here, and you and your whole family can go on the field, take a full tour of everything, go in the locker room, do everything, and it's all on me. Just let me know when you want to come. And so to me, I'm like, is this guy for real? Like, that's something I've always wanted to do. You can pay for it, but then it's more of a corporate tour, and I just haven't gotten around to it. And so the 3rd of July, we loaded up the car with my whole family, drove to South Bend. The guy told me to pull in the Rockney Gate. We pulled in, parked in the stadium, and he gave us a guided tour of everything you could ever want to see at Notre Dame. And it was just a private tour for me and my family, met all the coworkers, and it was amazing. And that's something that I never, ever would have had the chance to do if it wasn't for this show.
Yeah, I mean, that really, that's a 10 out of 10 on the scale of cool. I mean, that's just so cool that you got to do that.
It was, and you know what was neat? I mean, I walked in there, and all these other workers are going, oh, is this Always Irish? Like, it's great to meet you. We love your show. Like, for them to be able to put a face and a person
right
to what they've been hearing all these years was fun for them. And it was amazing. I mean, running out of the tunnel, hitting the play like a champion sign, going in the locker room, running on the field. And those are just all things that never, ever would have been possible if it wasn't for this. I'm so appreciative for those guys.
All right. I'm going to use this as a chance for a shameless plug. The Clemson grounds crew, holler at your boy. Take me in the locker room. Let me rub that rock and run down that hill, for Christ's sake. All right. Go, as you were, sir.
They need to get up on that. And then I got something else that came my way, and this is really unique. I was sending out those packets for the koozies and stuff, and again, there's a really loyal Twitter follower and listener. And again, he messaged me, and he just said, John, I got your packet. This is awesome. Can you give me a call? I want to talk to you. And I'm figuring, well, the last time I did this, it worked out great. I'm going to call this guy right now, And turns out he is a 78 graduate from Notre Dame, and that's Joe Montana's class. In 77, they won the championship under Dan Devine. And so turns out this guy is a Pulitzer Prize nominated author. He does a lot of World War II books, that kind of thing. And he told me on the phone that he's been commissioned by the university to write a book about the 77 championship team at Notre Dame. And those players wanted him to write it because he knows them personally, was in school with them. And he proceeds to tell me that for these games in the fall at home, he's got to meet with these guys, get their stories, hang out with them. And he said, John, you need to meet all these guys and come with me as my sidekick. And I'll introduce you to all these guys, the old players and coaches, you know, go to their tailgate parties. You need to get in the circle, run with me, and I'll get you in it. And so for me, that's the ultimate home run. I mean, and the guy's like, I just love what you're doing. You got to meet all these Notre Dame people that are in that circle. And so we're going to do that this fall, and I'm just going to follow this guy around and meet all the important people. So it's great.
Man, that's a 10 out of 10 on the scale of cool too. I mean, that is just really cool, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's just kind of, it shows you that if you just like have passion for something and you put it out there and it catches and people like it, like you never know what doors can open or what's coming your way if you just keep pushing it out and doing what you love. Like it's just been really, really encouraging and nice to have these experiences and people to tell you they like what you're doing. It just feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. I can understand that completely. Hope you know. Listen, I've had experiences. I've met friends that I wouldn't have met because of the show. That, you know, people that I've gone to football games with. People I'm going to football games again with this year that I never would have met if I wasn't on YouTube. So I mean, I know I haven't been to the stadium or getting to meet players yet, but I mean but either way, man, just that type of thing is what this is all about, really. But I mean, listen, I think that I get a lot of pleasure out of listening to other fan bases, other content creators, whether it's doing podcasts or YouTubers. I like listening to South Carolina fans as much as I hate South Carolina. I like listening to their point of view on things. Georgia, Alabama, Miami, Notre Dame. I get so much more out of listening to from somebody else's perspective because we all get lost in our own head a little bit. And so when I go on the Always Irish show and I hear maybe you talk about something about Clemson, and you have a different point of view on it than me because I do have orange colored glasses on. So sometimes listening to people from other fan bases can kind of set me back to reality a little bit. So if you're a fan of college football out there, guys, whether you like Notre Dame or hate Notre Dame, that's not the point. If you're just a big time college football fan, I urge you to check out Always Irish. I think he's massively underrated as a podcaster and as a YouTuber. So, I mean, you'd be doing me a favor and him a favor if you go over there, subscribe, and listen to what the guy's got to say. He's got a really good fan perspective over there. And I really do. I don't say this about everybody because a lot of people I'll watch their shows. You know, I'm not really looking forward to every single video they put out, but I'll watch their shows, you know, whenever I have time. I'm always looking forward to the Always Irish podcast. I listen to it from beginning to end when I'm out walking, or if I'm out, mowing the grass or something, I make sure I listen to the whole thing from beginning to end. He just uploaded a new episode today, and so I haven't listened to that yet, but I will, in the next 24 hours or so. So, John, again, I can't thank you enough, sir, for coming on the show. You told some great stories, that visit to Notre Dame story and the one that's coming up in the future. Those are awesome stories. I learned today that we have a lot in common. We're both Irish Catholic. We both have very Irish names. You know, my youngest son is named after you. His name is John as well. And we're both competitive golfers. And so, hey, I'll see you. Hopefully,
we're going to set something up. We're going to set something up because I'm going to be around, and I know I'm going to say I'm not going to go, but to watch us get beat by Clemson. But I know I'm going to be there. So we'll set it all up, and then you're spot on about. I love getting listeners from other fan bases. I have some very loyal Georgia fans who always listen to the show and always comment. And like you said, getting that outside perspective is healthy because you're getting outside your little Notre Dame Clemson world and you're getting realities from other people. I love people from other fan bases because you need that to balance out. So I encourage it, and I thank everybody who's a diehard fan of another team that listens. It's great.
Yes, and if you're a Notre Dame fan and you're watching this, whether this is the first time you've seen me, maybe you're just watching me because I'm interviewing John today. That's fine too. But I have a very big need for more Notre Dame fans to watch my videos, because I know that I haven't done the best at being very friendly to Notre Dame over the past couple of years on YouTube, so I probably scared a good bit of them away. I know I do have one or two that show up on a regular basis. So, but guys, look, it is what it is. If you're a Notre Dame fan and you stick around, I probably will say stuff that pisses you off because I have a different opinion, and John knows this. But if John can get past, my opinions on Notre Dame, then so can you guys. All right? That's all I'm going to say about that. All right. Sorry, my phone was ringing. All right, John, look, I really appreciate you stopping in, and we're going to have to do this again sometime. I may have to have you on the show leading up to the Georgia and Notre Dame game. What is that, week 4?
Yeah, it's week 4. I would love to, there's some very unique matchup things to talk about there, and I would love to do that.
All right, great. Then I will definitely be in touch about that, and of course about.
And then you know what else too? I want to do some stuff on my show with like picking some games or something like that this year for something different.
Okay.
If you want to be a part of that, I'd love to have you come on and we could pick the best games and pick the spreads and do something fun with that too.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, just let me know. I'd be happy to come on and contribute.
Fantastic. And then listen, I'm serious. When you come for Clemson next year, we'll hang out. We'll set something up.
Yeah, I'll definitely be in touch. I've already told the wife. I was like, look, we're gonna go. I don't care how much it costs. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. And I said, I already got a guy out there, a friend of mine from YouTube who's willing to show us around and hang out with us. And so it's in the book.
And then if you need any recommendations about Chicago or where to stay or what the deal is, whatever it is, just let me know.
Absolutely, I will definitely be in touch. Thank you, John, again. You're amazing and fantastic, sir. Have a good day.
No, hey, thanks a lot, man. This was terrific. I'll come on whenever you want.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Thanks, brother. See ya.
All right, guys. There you have it. That is my man, John, Always Irish. Again, I can't thank him enough for this. I have one more scheduled behind the camera before the season starts next week. It's the one that a lot of people have been waiting for, and a lot of people have been wondering why I haven't had this guy on yet, but it was by design. So anyway, a great ending to episode 9 of Behind the Camera with Always Irish. Go check him out on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. Go just type his name in. He's not hard to find. Also, what was I going to say? There was something else I wanted to say. Oh, yes, of course. Don't forget, if you want to wager on football and support a good cause in St. Jude's Children's Hospital, click the link in the description of this video. Deposit the money. A portion of those proceeds will go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. # Sam Strong. And use the promo code PETE, PEETE, and they'll give you a 50% bonus on your deposit. I guess that's it. Another great show in the books. Episode 9. Everybody, thank you.